Interesting enough, it looks like a lot of their presentations, they're switching over to the agenda meeting. Now, by the way, it's the 21st of February, right after a freeholder meeting, after the public freeholder meeting. But there's also an agenda meeting every other meeting, and that's where the agenda is presented by the directors and the department heads, and the freeholders ask the questions. Well, now they're starting to have, instead of presentations during the regular meeting where the public gets to speak, they're having it now during the agenda meeting where nobody really shows up. I'm the only one from the public that shows up at these agenda meetings because you don't get to say anything, you just listen. So it's Paul Payton from the Westfield Leader and myself, and of course the rest of the crew of county people. Anyway, what I was leading into, what they did at the last agenda meeting was they had a presentation on Runnells Hospital. They had contracted out to two companies to do a study. Well, the study came out, and they did a presentation at this agenda meeting as to what the county can do with Runnells Hospital. This company, I think it's CHR, they were the point person. So they explained the choices, and they didn't really make recommendations, but you can see what the direction they were going. One was they were telling the county to keep the psychiatric section of the hospital. That's the important one. It seems like that's the one making money. That's right. First they presented, they looked into efficiencies and some savings, and I think they came out with something like $3 or $4 million that they can keep the hospital, and they'd save $3 or $4 million in efficiency. Sounds good, except that the problem is, and they stated, the county is losing $17 million a year. How it got to be $17 million, that's a story in itself. Next year is going to actually be a $19 million loss. So what they suggested, you can save $4 million, but you're still going to be in the hole a whole bunch. So the other choice was to keep the psychiatric license and the beds, and to lease out the long care, elder care beds. They said rare do hospitals do that, but that can be done. And they said, I think you'd be able to maybe save $10 million that way. And still, with a $17 million loss, you'd still be in the red. The third choice that they gave them, and this is what everybody's been mumbling about for years, was selling Runnells Hospital. And they said that if you sell Runnells Hospital, more than likely you'll get $22 to $24 million. They didn't assess it, but the rules of thumb was $22 to $24 million. They actually presented a slideshow, and they showed like some other counties, like Sussex County, I think, and Camden County, has either sold their hospital or is in the process of selling. And the interesting thing is, CHR in this presentation was saying these hospitals were losing a couple of $1 million. They weren't losing tens of $1 million like Union County. Now, let's look at the presentation. They kind of like glossed over why they're losing money. This is what I got from the presentation. There's two things. One, they mentioned about the carrying cost of personnel at the hospital, and they even referred to it as high. That's a story in itself for that one. The other one was the Medicaid reimbursement. They were saying that the Medicaid reimbursement for the last many years was hovering around $220, $230, $240, $215. They were throwing out numbers like that the last 5 years. Right now it's at $220. They're saying there was a high of about $240. So yes, the Medicaid is dropping. And they said in the future it's forecast, and they said it's almost a guarantee. The Medicaid reimbursement of $220 per bed, by the way, $220 per bed, is going to drop to $190. So that's where the county is also going to start losing $19 million and possibly even more. That was alarming. But they said the cost per bed of operating costs of the hospital is $300. And that if it drops to $190, that's why you're getting this close to $20 million loss. All well and fine. It kind of made sense. I can see the direction this is going. They made recommendations, and the freeholders are going to take it under advisement. But you can see the writing on the wall. They have a $17 million loss, $19 million next year. They don't like that because they got this whole corrupted system they got to try to maintain, and that's like a leak in the dam. The other is this $300 cost, which I don't know. We got to address that somehow. But I guess John wants to jump in.
Jim,
I'm sorry. Jim.
well, I just want to just do the simple math. We've got A plus B equals C. A being federal reimbursements, all right? B, cost of running the hospital. C equals $17 million loss. Well, if that be the case, why would any private entity want to come in and buy that hospital to run? Obviously, they think they can make money. Obviously, there's too much money being spent
Per bed.
and they don't want to give up why that is.
Yeah. See, the problem I think we're finding out is this cost of $300 per bed that the county is carrying in operating costs when Medicaid is only $220. There's also Medicare, which is a dollar amount, but it hasn't changed over the many years. So that's not really a culprit. So they're blaming this Medicaid cost dropping, yet they're not even addressing why is it $300 per bed. And that is the problem. And that's why they're losing $17 and $19 million. And obviously, like Jim mentions, this private entity would come in and buy the hospital tomorrow possibly, which would be great because we'd get $20 million out of the deal. But if they buy the hospital, that means that they could do it a lot cheaper.
They can do it cheaper.
Yeah, than $300 per bed.
And it's already been established that we have bloated salaries up there. It's a patronage pit. We have one supervisor supervising one person.
Yeah, there's 4 guys on the payroll who abuse, and I'm not going to say their names, who abuse overtime and such. Just them alone costs like $1 million, and it shouldn't. I mean, I'm only getting up there towards $1 million. So, but the problem is, so in this meeting tonight, a lot of people came up and they talked about runnels and the waste of drugs that they have to throw away, which Joan Wheeler, who's the director of runnels, she said she was outraged too about all federal guidelines and mandates. She has to throw away all this stuff. I don't know if it's true or not.
We don't know if it's true.
Yeah, but Sullivan at the very end in his wrap-up comment said, well, the problem here is all based on, and then he started saying that I was misinformed, and misunderstanding, is that it's the Medicaid reimbursement. Yeah, the federal reimbursement is the culprit.
And it's going to get worse.
Yeah,
but there's still a company that's willing to come in there and
buy it.
buy it.
And county hospitals, like I said, Sussex, Camden, they listed like 4 county hospitals. They are being bought. So something tells me that it's basically the county incompetence that drove up the cost of $300 per bed. So it's not Medicaid. Yes, that is a culprit, but that's a minor culprit. It's a couple $1 million a year probably if you look at it. It's basically the idiots like Sullivan and the rest of the freeholders that don't know what they're doing. And they've been proven to be incompetent for years and years, financially incompetent, along with other incompetencies.
I'd like to speak with what Joan Wheeler said about the waste of the prescription drugs.
Oh, the pills, yeah.
All right, and she got up there and she said that they comply with the federal guidelines. And I do believe she was very truthful in that statement. I believe, though, she's a little bit disingenuous in stating that, probably if we had an in-house pharmacy, we would not be wasting those kinds of drugs. So there's a reason why they are bringing that bid outside, as opposed to being an in-house pharmacy.
Well, they want to waste drugs?
They need to give that job to an outside pharmacist.
Oh, Partners Pharmacy. They're in Cranford, by the way. Partners Pharmacy.
I don't know where they are.
And are they connected? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know if you were alluding to that or not. But at this point, I mean, I did look at their website. Right. I looked at the personnel. All right. It looks like they're
the bottom line on this issue of runnels, whether it's going to go public or go private, it is going private. So all the employees up there, just face the fact you're dead employees walking, all right? And the county is now in the banquet hall and the golf business.
Yeah, they'd rather be the banquet hall and golf instead of health. That's the direction. And I feel sorry for the nurses. I mean, they are serious. They do a good job. And the freeholders say, well, we really respect their work ethic. But
it's bloated.
They're just a bunch of BS. And I'm really sorry to see this go. To claim a couple of years ago that they only lost $500,000 and now they're going to lose $19 million, and then the BS about this Medicaid dropping. No, it's the freeholders and their total financial incompetency.
So it's look over here, it's the federal government reimbursements. But in reality, it's the patronage.
Yeah, oh, it's not them. They'll always, and if you look, they always grab on some external force. They'll always grab them.
I have nothing more to say.
Yeah.
It's simple A
Okay.
plus B
And we
equals
prove
C.
otherwise every time. So. Okay, thank you.